Ideas do you have to raise the state revenue without raising taxes?
Well, you know, I think in Tennessee, obviously we've been through a lot of changes. I think the people of Tennessee have pretty much spoken that they are satisfied with the current tax structure that we have, which is a sales tax-based tax structure. So you've got to look within that system and figure out other ways to possibly increase revenue within the system we have without changing it into some sort of income tax-based system. I don't think that's not going to happen in Tennessee, and I wouldn't propose it. But I think you have to be innovative. You have to think outside the box. You have to look at other ways that you can increase revenue. The number one way you can increase revenue is make sure people are working, because when they're working, they have that disposable income. They're able to purchase things, which obviously adds to the sales tax base. So that would be the number one way that you would increase the revenue in the state of Tennessee.
And you briefly touched on it, but you are not interested in implementing a state tax,
a state income tax. No. The people of Tennessee have pretty much spoken that they don't want that kind of tax system, that they are satisfied with the current tax system that we have. So I think we have to work within that, and we have to be innovative. As I said before, think outside the box and think of other ways and things to do things. You know, you've got a number of the exemptions. You just have to be willing to look at other alternatives. But changing the tax structure to turn it into something like an income tax is not something that I favor.
Well, you sponsored a bill to change the ethics rules in the General Assembly. Let's talk a little bit about that. Included in that bill was a restriction governing when elected officials could raise money for things like campaigns. Lieutenant Governor Ramsey worked hard to change that in the past legislative session. Has that legislation worked, in your opinion, during the last 3 years?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I spent most of my career in the legislature as the chairman of the House Ethics Committee and also as the sponsor of a number of pieces of ethics legislation, because I believe in transparency. I believe in accountability. I think that is the way that you continue to move this state forward. So when I sponsored the major ethics reform law in Tennessee, of course it was as a result of a pretty dark time in Tennessee history after the Tennessee Waltz scandal. But what we really were trying to do is look at things that would improve the way government operated. So a lot of the bill dealt with things like the influence that lobbyists have, how much lobbyists can spend, how much lobbyists can pay, who can contribute, who can't contribute. And one of the things that we had seen over the time I was in the General Assembly is that the public had the perception that legislators who were spending their time supposed to be legislating, but were really spending their time having fundraisers and raising money, weren't doing their job. And so I felt that it was extremely important that we clear up that perception and let people know that elected officials were elected by them to go to Nashville and to do their job. We don't have a full-time legislature. If we did, we probably couldn't have this law. We have a part-time legislature, and one that has a definitive start time and end time. So it was very appropriate to prohibit sitting legislators from raising money from the lobbyists and from others while they were supposed to be doing their job. And it's worked very, very well, and I don't think it's something that is going to be changed.
You mentioned that dark period in Tennessee government history. Do you think you have regained the trust of the voters? There was a time where it got a little hairy there.
It did, and I certainly hope so. I mean, as I said, as I travel around the state of Tennessee, I have not heard from anybody that tells me, we don't trust you. What I hear from people is we want you to work hard. We want somebody that is dedicated to the people of Tennessee, that gets up every morning and thinks, how can I make the lives of the people of Tennessee better, and works on that as hard as they can until they go to sleep that night. And, you know, that's the kind of elected official I was. That's the kind of governor I want to be, and that's what I try to convince people. And I think that's what they're focused on now. And if you focus on legislation, if you focus on doing the right things for the right reasons for the people of Tennessee, then people will trust you.
Do you see any other ethics reforms that are needed at this point?
Oh, I think you can never stop. I think there's always things that you need to look at in terms of reforms to our ethics laws. I think, we had a fairly major change in the law when I was in the legislature. But I think there's always things that we can do to tweak it, to make it better. I'm a real believer in accountability and transparency in state government. So anything we can do to continue to add to that for the people of Tennessee, I would be very much in favor of.
In this past legislative session, there were several changes to the gun laws. Tell me what you think about the legislation that's in place and what you think needs to change in the future.
Well, that's a difficult issue. I know that the Second Amendment is obviously very important to very many people in Tennessee, and I believe in the Second Amendment, and I believe in individuals' rights to own handguns and to carry handguns. And in fact, I was in the legislature and helped sponsor and voted for the handgun carry permit law that we currently have in Tennessee today. However, during the time that I was in the legislature, there sought to be a number of changes to that law, which ultimately have now passed when I wasn't in the legislature. But what I tried to do is say, while we respect everyone's right to have a gun, carry a gun, have a handgun carry permit, there are also safety issues that are concerned. And I listened to my friends in law enforcement when I was in the legislature, and I had hoped that the legislature would listen to them now, because what they tell you is something that is very important, and that's guns and alcohol don't mix, and guns and school children don't mix. And so while it is very important to allow people to have their freedoms and their rights, there are certain types of safety issues that come into place. So I am opposed to mixing guns and alcohol. I think that is absolutely a step in the wrong direction. So the guns and bars legislation that passed, I am not a fan of. I'm not in favor of it. I think it was a step in the wrong direction, just because I don't believe that guns and alcohol mix. Just like I don't believe we should allow relaxing of the law for guns on school grounds or guns where children are present, because I think that guns and children don't mix either. Yeah. So that was my feeling on that legislation. I was not in favor of it. I had voted against it when I was in the legislature and it came up. I'm hoping that the legislature will continue to rethink their position on some of those issues as they move forward.
We've got less than 2 minutes left, and I want to give you the opportunity to tell us what else we might have missed that is important to you to get done those first few weeks in office if you become governor.
Well, I think the first thing you've got to do is continue to work on job creation, job retention, growing jobs in Tennessee. We've got to work on education, both from all the way from the pre-K effort, which I was proud to sponsor that pre-K bill, which really created wonderful opportunities for our children in Tennessee. And continue to move forward all the way into the higher education arena. We've got to work on health care. We've got a lot of issues, but the number one thing that I think that the next governor needs to do is show the people of Tennessee that you're the kind of governor who is optimistic and positive about Tennessee's future. And I am, and that's why I'm running, because I believe in the people of Tennessee. I believe in listening to them and leading them forward, because I know that Tennessee can come out of this recession that this country is in, and we can come out stronger because we're going to work together towards it.
All right. Kim McMillian, thank you so much for being here with us today. If you'd like more information on Kim McMillian's campaign for governor, you can log on to her website at kimmcmillian.com. And we hope you will join us next time right here on Inside Politics.